All right, Unit 1 Trig Test Review, page 4, last one. Last page here. 4 word problems. We can do this here. An 8-foot board is laid on top of 4 bricks in order to create a ramp for a ramp to ride a bike off of. If each brick is 6 inches tall, what is the angle of elevation created by the ramp? All right. So there's a few things going on in here that we kind of need to be aware of. All right. So first things first, I'm going to draw the bricks. So there are 4 bricks. So let's just go like 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Each one of these bricks is 6 inches. Something that we really have to be careful of is units. All right. These are 6 inches. Now we know 12 inches equals 1 foot. All right. So we have an 8-foot board and we have 4 6-inch bricks. So really what we have to do is we have to make sure we're comparing, apples with apples. You don't want to compare apples with oranges. So I'm going to convert everything into feet because that's an easy conversion. All right. So 6 inches. So if we look here, this is 24 inches. All right. But 24 inches is 2 feet. All right, so that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use 2 feet. All right, so we have a 2-foot vertical, like we're stacking all these bricks, and it ends up being 2 feet. Now, we also have a board that is 8 feet long. All right, so you have to think, where is the board going? The board's not going to go on the floor. It's not going to be flat. That wouldn't make sense. That would be a terrible ramp, right? So our 8 has to be the hypotenuse of this triangle here. All right, they're asking us for the angle of elevation created by the ramp. All right, the ramp and the floor. So that's going to be this angle down here. So let's just go ahead and identify what we have. So it looks like the opposite, and it looks like the hypotenuse. All right, what trig function goes with the opposite and the hypotenuse? Well, that's going to be your sine. So we're going to say the sine of theta, all right, equals the opposite, which is 2, over the hypotenuse, which is 8. And again, we're solving for the angle, so we're going to have to do an inverse trig function here. So I'm going to say the inverse sine of 2/8 equals theta. And then punch that into your calculator. The inverse sine of 2/8. The inverse sine of 2/8, 2 divided by 8, is going to be, what is that? 14.477. They went 2 decimals, so we're going to call it 14.48. All right, so theta equals 14.48. All right, that is our angle of elevation. Right. Next one, a bird. Bird is sitting on top of a 20-story building, 200 feet. All right, so the building's 200 feet. That's good to know. Bird is looking down at a worm on the ground with an angle of depression of 70 degrees. This is where we're going to get some mistakes here. All right, so we have our building. All right, there's a bird sitting on top. I can't draw a bird, so there you go. That's my bird. He's looking down at a worm slithering on the ground right here. They tell us the angle of depression is 70 degrees. So the angle of depression, we have to be careful because that is not that bottom angle there. It's not this angle right here in our triangle. The angle of depression is the angle made by this bird looking out into the horizon, right? So this angle right here is your 70-degree angle, right? That's the angle we want. However, if you look at this, the triangle that's kind of made by this whole scenario, it's right here. So that 70-degree being on the outside is not very helpful. We know angles of depression are equal to the angles of elevation. So these two angles are going to be congruent. All right, this is a building, so we can assume that it's built at a 90-degree angle. It's not the Leaning Tower of Pisa or anything. 90-degree angle, we know the building is 200 feet tall, right? What are they asking us? How far away from the bird is the worm? All right, so they are asking for this one right here. So like the bird's got to swoop down and get him. The bird's not going to go straight down and then, walk across the ground. It's going to fly in that, closest, that direct path here. So we are looking for this one right here. So let's just identify what we have. All right, the 200 is our opposite. The x is our hypotenuse. Opposite hypotenuse, that's going to be sine again. So we're going to say the sine of our angle, we actually know our angle this time, sine of 70 degrees equals 200 over x. All right, so x is on bottom, switch that with the sine. So we're going to say x equals 200 divided by the sine of 70. We're looking for a side length this time, so we do not need the inverse. We only take inverses when we're looking for the angles. On this one, we're looking for a side length. All right, so we got 200 divided by the sine of, we got 70. Sine of 70 is 212.84. Right, and of course, that's feet. So, I'll always try to, understand the units and make sure we're using the correct units here. All right, next one, baseball field. On a baseball field, the bases are arranged in the shape of a square. Okay, each base is positioned 90 feet away from each other. What is the distance from second base to home plate? All right. So I think some of you guys are baseball players, so you might actually already know this one. All right, so we got first, second, third, and fourth. These are all, 90-degree angles. We actually don't need trig for this one. All right, it's 90 feet to first, 90 feet to second, 90 feet to third, and so on and so forth. We are looking for this one. The catcher, let's say, is trying to pick off somebody stealing first, or stealing second. Pitcher is trying to pick them off. We're going to call this X. Now, we're trying to figure out how far do they need to throw. So since it's a square, these are all right angles. This is an isosceles triangle. All right, if you look at the the right triangle there, it's an isosceles triangle, two congruent sides. So this tells us we have a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So we kind of get x for free. X is just equal to 90 times the square root of 2. All right, so that's great. That is the exact answer. But when we're talking baseball, like no one knows what 90 square root of 2 is in feet. So let's type that in and get a decimal approximation for it. That's going to be 127.28. I already figured out what I said, 127.28. Right, and that is going to be how far we have to throw the ball to pick off, a base runner. And actually, I think from first to third is about 40 yards. And 30 yards. All right. All right. So that is our answer. 127.28 feet. All right, and there we have it. That one's done. If we wanted to, we could have used trig for that one, but it's not necessary. We don't have to work harder than we need to. As long as you recognize that 45, 45, 90 in there, that problem is very straightforward. All right, one more. Angle of elevation of a hill is 38.5 degrees. If the path up the hill is 500 feet, what is the vertical height of the hill? All right, so all right, here is our triangle here, the angle of elevation up the hill, 38.5. Now we're climbing up the hill, we're walking up the hill. So that is going to be this distance right here. That is our hypotenuse. They're looking for the vertical distance. All right, they're looking for this one right here. How far up, how much altitude have we gained? All right, so let's look here. X is our opposite. 500 is your hypotenuse again. If we're looking at altitude, the definition of altitude is it makes a 90-degree angle with the ground. So that is a 90-degree angle, right triangle. So this one more sine function here. So we have the sine 38.5 equals the opposite, over the hypotenuse, which is 500, multiply 500 on both sides. We'll just show our work on this one. 500 times the sine, 38.5 equals x. Punch all of that in. 500, last problem here, times the sine of 38.5. Oh, what is that? 311. 311. Wow. All right. 311.26. And there we have it. That's how much vertical movement we had when we climbed this hill. All right. And that one's done. That is unit 1, page 4 of your Trig test review. All right. If you guys have any questions, of course, always feel free to ask me, but hopefully this video answered any questions that you might have already had. All right. So we'll see you guys later.